Hi everyone, my name is Sam Stark. I'm a reporter here at KXAN News. I wanted to introduce you to a new segment that we're doing called KXAN Live, the Meza case, where myself and my colleague Brianna Hollis are going to just get really into the details of the case revolving Raul Meza Jr. Just a quick background on Raul Meza. He has a long criminal history in Central Texas, going back as far as 1975, when he was convicted of an aggravated robbery where he shot a manager of a convenience store. A few years later, he was convicted of murdering an 8-year-old girl, Kendra Page.
And the reason why we're bringing him back up again, obviously, these things that Sam just mentioned happened decades ago, but in May, he was actually arrested on two additional murders. One that occurred earlier this year in Pflugerville. That was an 80-year-old man named Jesse Fraga. And another one in 2019 involving a woman named Gloria Lofton in East Austin. So Sam is a digital reporter for us. I am our crime and public safety reporter, and the two of us have really been tackling this topic as more details unfold over the last few months. And we wanted to bring that conversation to this space to really have the chance for the time, first of all, and just also wanting to be able to have this conversation in a more casual way outside of just our broadcast. We can give you a little bit of a look behind the curtain when it comes to what it takes to cover something like this.
That's exactly right. And so we should probably get into some quick updates that have happened in the last 4 weeks. So on August 11th, Raul Meza was indicted by a grand jury in the murders of both Jesse Fraga, who he was living with at the time, right, Bree?
He was living at his home at the time, but our investigators dug up some history between him and Fraga. Basically, Fraga and his wife had kind of taken Meza in after he was in and out of jail, and there was a lot of controversy in the community about that. But at the time, it appeared that Fraga wasn't necessarily living in the home and was potentially trying to get Meza out. There's still some details we're looking into there, but the murder did happen at Fraga's home in Pflugerville.
Right. So he was indicted for that murder, and then he was also indicted for murder of Gloria Lofton, who is a 65-year-old woman, or sorry, was a 65-year-old woman. Raul Meza actually was living near her on Sarah Drive in East Austin, so he was indicted in that murder as well. And then there was one last charge, right, Bree?
There was also unauthorized use of a motor vehicle in the Fraga case, which there was some evidence that came out that he was using his vehicle, and they, just because it was related to the same case, the indictments all went to that same grand jury for that.
Right. And then quickly, one last update. This happened back in July. At the FBI, APD, and then I think another entity actually searched a Pflugerville field where they uncovered some interesting stuff there, right?
Yeah, rope, tarp in a field in Pflugerville. And this happened because after police announced the arrest of Raul Meza in May, Pflugerville police actually discovered and remembered, I guess was the word I believed that they used, that they had seen Fraga in 2022 walking down the street with blood on his shirt. They tried to get a straight answer from him about why, and they couldn't, so that's when that search happened. And I last talked to APD about this last week, I believe, and there's no updates there, but that's going to uncover something interesting, I think.
Right. So essentially, the way how this is going to work is we're going to either go back into the history of Raul Meza or go into something that's happening in real time, and we're going to try to just take apart those things and really go in depth on what's happening. So today we wanted to talk a little bit about one of the people who Raul Meza is indicted of, who he's been indicted on murdering, and that's Gloria Lofton. So I was able to get in touch with Gloria Lofton's two biological daughters. It's Sonia Houston and Christina Foltz. Sonia Houston grew up with Gloria Lofton. Christina Foltz did not, but they did reconnect a couple of years before Gloria Lofton was killed. So I got to sit down with them a couple of times. A few weeks back, we had to sit down to just sort of go over everything that's happened in recent weeks, and I wanted to play for you guys a clip from that interview. In 2019, after her mother Gloria Lofton died, Susan Houston said she was handed the keys to her late mother's house and was told nothing about what she would find inside.
They released the house to me with blood spattered down the hallway. They released the house to me in what was a crime scene. I wasn't prepared for it, nor did they even have the decency to say to me, Miss Houston, you're gonna walk into something we don't know you're prepared for.
At first, police told her that her mother's cause of death was undetermined.
There's evidence of something occurred here.
And there was. In 2019, detectives discovered male DNA on Gloria Lofton's body. In 2020, a DNA profile obtained from a sexual assault kit from Lofton's matched Raul Meza's.
It's 2023 and I'm just now finding out this information. So the lack of them keeping in contact with me as a part of the victim's family, as I am the victim, they dropped the ball.
And Houston is still left with many questions.
Perhaps if my mother had been that Susan or Karen of West Austin, and perhaps if I had 6 figures in my bank account and I had a family lawyer to handle it, but I don't. But how many other cases were just like my mother?
Even though the man charged with her mother's murder has been arrested, the pain of missing her mom is still sharp.
I miss the every couple of days I would get a text, oh, just thinking about you. I miss the, hey, I just need you to go do a store run for me. To have her see her grandchildren be even better than I was, all of those things I miss, and Mr. Meza took that.
In 20
So, of course, a really heavy interview there, a difficult conversation. One of the reasons we wanted to show you this story of Sam's, early on in this, that's one of the first pieces of video we wanted to show you, is this is a case. I know a lot of people are interested in true crime right now, and they, will want to go down the path of what was this person thinking, what are the details of the case. But something that I know that's really important to both Sam and I is that we want to show that this case impacts real people. So, Sam, what was it like talking to this family?
Just exactly as you articulated it. It's just heartbreaking that someone lost their loved one, someone that meant the world to them, in just this really tragic way. So it's been really good catching up with both of the daughters and just checking in with them as we get updates in this investigation to see how they're feeling. As you could see in that clip, Sonia wasn't super happy with how the communication has been exchanged through she died and since when she died in 2019 and even over the past few months. She'd love to get more information. Obviously, it's challenging because this is an active investigation, and I'm sure officers are trying to uncover as much information as possible. But as you can imagine, with especially it affecting someone that you love so much, it's a really complicated time for them.
And one of the things you asked about was the whole information that came to light regarding the 2020 DNA hit a year after Lofton died. That was kind of one of the pinnacles of the conversation, why you talked to her in the first place.
Yeah, that's right. So I think it was in 2020. There was a rape kit that uncovered Gloria Lofton's DNA, and you've done quite a bit of reporting on that. Do you want to tell me a little bit more?
Yeah. So according to the affidavit, which we got shortly after police made the announcement about the arrest, it stated that in 2020, APD had received a DNA matching Meza's DNA on Gloria Lofton's rape kit test, but they weren't able to arrest him at that time. Obviously, they didn't arrest him until this year, 2023, and the Austin Police Department actually launched an internal investigation into this process regarding the handling of that DNA, and that's something I asked Police Chief Joseph Chacon directly about the other week. So let's take a look at that interview. I know the internal investigation into whatever happened with Gloria Lofton Meza's DNA is still ongoing, but is there, anything that you guys have done to change any of the processes moving forward to make sure that doesn't happen again?
There is. So we have a more robust kind of checks and balances system with DNA hits now with CODIS hits, so that it isn't dependent on one single point of failure for us to have a mishap. Making sure that we have people that in our forensics lab that are following up to make sure that these have been acknowledged and followed up on, the detective as well as the chain of command, knowing that this hit came in so that it's examined, something's done with it, and it doesn't, we don't have any other issues.
Does it look like a mistake was made?
I can't talk about that right now because of the open investigation on it. I think we need to let that investigation bear out to determine if that is what happened or not, but believe me, we're looking into it.
So, Bree, it sounds like Chief Chacon said that because it's an ongoing investigation, they're not really willing to release any information about it. But you told me earlier that you talked to some third-party officers, and they were able to give their thoughts on it.
Yeah, so there's two main pieces that I have from them, and some of that got confirmed through Chief Chacon. First of all, I want to talk about what the process is like when there is a DNA match. And this is what Chacon told me. He said that when there is a DNA match, there's an internal system, basically. Think about any kind of internal communication or notification system that you might have at your job. The notification goes directly to the investigators, and that also generates an email that goes to investigators as well. So that's one of the things they're looking into when it comes to this. Regarding DNA matches in general, I thought this was really interesting. This is what a third-party law enforcement group told me, a couple of them actually, that a DNA match isn't enough in itself to make an arrest. What it can do is help generate a search warrant, but other evidence is also needed. So at the time, the third-party group I spoke with, they said that just because there was a DNA match, that may not have provided probable cause to arrest Meza at the time. Again, we still don't know. That's part of what the internal investigation that's happening right now will uncover. But they said other evidence is needed, which in this case, if you just go through the facts, I'm not trying to speculate or anything here, but in May, when Meza called police, he implicated himself and essentially confessed to Lofton's murder. So perhaps that could have been the other piece of evidence needed, but there's obviously still a chance that something else happened. I know the police department, when they released the statement to us about the internal investigation, said that Chacon wanted to look into potential investigative lapses.
Right. Well, sounds like there's going to be quite a few updates on that, especially, and it will be really interesting to get more details. But in terms of this episode, this was our first one. We hope that you guys have enjoyed it, and we're going to continue this coverage and bring you different aspects of the case and try to unpack all the more complicated ones for everyone.
And yeah, there's, like we said at the beginning, there's a lot to look into. There's his criminal history, there's the state laws at the beginning that may have allowed him to get out earlier. Investigator Dalton Huey and I actually tracked down one of his therapists and spoke with her. Some really, really compelling information there. And Sam and I are looking forward to sharing this case with you and talking about our process.
Yeah, definitely. If there's anything that you guys are interested in us covering in terms of this case, you can leave comments on this Facebook post. Otherwise, we will try to bring you a KXAN Live or one of these videos where we plop it on our socials and in our website every week. We're going to try to get on a more consistent schedule where we're publishing at a similar time every Thursday. But we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.